Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to Napkin Numbers by Freeman Lunt, your go-to source for M&A insights. Today, we're going to start off the new year and focus on the role of commercial real estate agents in M&A. So let's get started. Our first segment today in Napkin Numbers is going to be about acquiring a business with real estate. So we're going to explore those top 3 reasons why investors and entrepreneurs consider this move. So those reasons being number 1, property valuation and market conditions. They're going to be looking at due diligence and legal compliance. And finally, the third reason that people run into is that financial considerations and return on investment. Each of these factors play a pivotal role in making a well-informed decision. So let's unpack these elements briefly and understand what makes this an investment opportunity so appealing. So part 1, we're going to buy a business, it's got real estate. So when you talk about in mergers and acquisitions, property value and market conditions, it's immensely important to have somebody that's a commercial real estate expert in this realm. They're the ones that are going to be able to tell you what's going on now, what's happened in the past, and where things are going, and get that pulse of the market for making an investor have an informed decision. They're also going to be really important when it comes down to due diligence and legal compliance. Nobody is going to understand that part of real estate like a licensed commercial real estate agent. They navigate zoning laws and environmental regulations. They ensure that seamless transition during that acquisition process.
Now let's talk about numbers, financial considerations, and ROI, your return on investment. Working alongside real estate experts, we at Freeman Lunt evaluate costs, revenue potential, and ROI, ensuring your investment is sound and profitable. Let's talk through a case study of how we do that. Let's say you're a buyer and you're going to pick up pick up some commercial real estate in the purchase of the business that you're acquiring. Well, how can the real estate be impactful to you financially? Well, number 1, you're thinking, well, I got to spend money to buy it. It's a negative impact. I'm spending, I'm losing money. No, you are spending money, but what are some of the things that come into your return on investment? One of the things we like to highlight is something called a cost segregation study. What does that mean? And this is something you'll want to cover, obviously, with your CPA when you're doing this type of transaction. In a cost seg, you are accelerating depreciation on the purchase of that real estate. So let's say I buy a $2 million building. And on a lot of the cost seg studies that we've seen, you're getting anywhere from 10 to 20% of that purchase price in accelerated depreciation. So if I'm using 2 million as a figure, which we had a client do this, they got just about 20%. So let's just use that number to make it easy math. That was $400,000 in accelerated depreciation. They were in upwards of a 40% tax bracket. So what did that put back in their pocket? Almost $160,000 of cash. That's significant. You want to equate these things into your ROI. Why would I want to do this transaction? What are all the benefits? These are the things that need to be figured out with your team of advisors when you're working on a deal that involves real estate. Now that's the buy side of things. But what happens when it's time to sell? Let's explore that.
Yeah, let's transition to that flip side of the discussion. So really going to look into that selling of a business with real estate and why that's a strategic decision. So top 3 reasons there, a little bit different. We've got valuation and pricing. Now, we did see some of that on the buy side. You've also got those legal and regulatory issues, but finding the right buyer is also a big deal because selling isn't just about getting cash out, putting money in your pocket. It's a nuanced process that involves several key considerations. So not only do you need to get the right value and go through all these legal landscapes, but you really need to understand, how can I make this efficient, tax efficient for you and the next steps in your life? So part 1, as I discussed, was that legal and regulatory issues. So to navigate that, very similar to the situation from buying a company with real estate, you're going to want to have a licensed commercial real estate agent to go through all of those regulatory issues and make sure you're not going to have a problem down the road. Also, finding that right buyer, their entire job is to create a market or understand the market And part of that is when you're selling is finding somebody that not just says, I want to cut a check, but somebody that is the right buyer for that real estate and that it's a strategic move, not just a transaction. So they play a critical role in connecting those sellers with qualified buyers, people that just aren't going to waste your time, and align it with whatever the business's future vision is.
Now, valuing and pricing your business or sale is a nuanced process. We collaborate with top real estate agents to appraise the property accurately, ensuring you get the best market value. Variety of tax-efficient vehicles for selling your real estate, such as a DST, which is a Delaware State Trust, or a 1031 exchange, or a monetized installment sale are some of those examples. Again, we're going to dive into another case study. Monetized installment sale being the case study on this one. We had a client that sold their business along with their real estate. It was a pretty heavy tax impact, low seven figures. They were sitting back going, all right, if I'm going to pay a couple $1 million in tax, this better make sense. And are there any ways that I can reduce that liability? So we brought in some experts in those arenas, sat down and figured out, hey, there's a thing called the monetized installment sale. How does this work? It gave them the ability to defer their taxes up to 30 years. And during that 30 years, they could pay those taxes when it best suited them. So if 5 years down the road, the day one, they started with a $2 million tax liability, 5 years goes by and there's some significant tax changes in the code. And now that 2 million has been reduced to $1 million. They just cut it by 50%. Well, they can choose to pay their taxes at that time. Now, again, these are some highlights of these programs. You still have to have the professionals in those arenas at the table when you're doing these transactions, but it's important to understand these vehicles are out there. That's why we're here trying to educate you so you understand there are some ways to really put money back in your pocket, increase your ROI on any of these transactions, and make sure you have the right team around you when you're considering these options.
So that's all for today's napkin numbers. I mean, in the complex world of M&A, we're really here and we value the expertise of commercial real estate agents. It's something that we, on every transaction, there is some kind of a purchase or a lease or something involving on the buy side or the sell side of real estate. So our website has a lot more insights when it comes to this kind of information. But what we want to let you know is in the next episode, we're actually bringing an industry expert on commercial real estate onto the show, Bob Frederickson. He's the president of Coldwell Banker Commercial Danforth in Federal Way, Washington. He's going to join us to talk a little bit more about commercial real estate and as it affects buying and selling a business. A little bit about Bob, so everybody knows, he co-founded that company in 1996. He's been doing this for a hot minute with his business partner, Dave Danforth, CBC Danforth. They're currently recognized as one of those top 15 offices in North America and a recipient of a wide variety of prestigious and elite awards through CBC, not just for the firm, but for Bob personally. He's got decades of industry experience and success, and we are excited to have him on the show and talk a little bit more about this and his perspective. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll get you some more insights, and looking forward to seeing everybody next month. Have a great year.